Hey everyone, you're back on An Attempt to Understand, here with myself, Adam Dean. So this week, welcome back people, of course, if you're joining me again, and if you're new, it's great to have you. I hope you're having a great day so far. Today, I am speaking about life always feeling more expensive, you know. Right now, I'm in my mid-20s, and everything is just continuing to get more expensive. You know, it feels like you make a little bit of progress to start. Like, you get working, you get a little bit of money, you save some money. You're like, sweet, alright, nice. But then, like, boom, immediately you get new bills. Like, either you go up that lifestyle ladder and you start getting more expensive stuff that you have to pay for, or you just look at the next, like, milestone. It's like, okay, now I need to, like, buy a house, or now I need to pay for this wedding. And you're like, oh my goodness, what is going on? So, really, that is my excuse to talk about it today. I've been a little stressed recently, and stressed isn't, I don't know if it's the great word for it, because I'm not exactly, when I think of stress, I just cut to all of the Ben Affleck photos of him handling like Dunkin' Donuts and cigarettes, and he's like, oh, I like all of that. And I'm not like that stressed. I'm not keeling over in tears or anything, but it is certainly a different experience, when you're going through like right now we're planning the wedding for next year, and you're just going through different tasks, or things you need to save for and pay for. You need to get rings and venues and officiants and everything, and every time you take a couple off and you start going through, like, okay, what the day is looking like or what the event is looking like, you're making progress. You're like, yes, I've got a bit of money for this. I've got a bit of money for this. And then you're getting closer to hitting those goals, and you're like, right, great. What else is there? Oh, boom, boom, boom. 3 brand new things. Like, the officiant, you got to pay them. They got, like, fees. You got to get, like, your food in. People got to eat after and stuff, and we're trying to do non-traditional with things in terms of the ceremony and stuff like that, and the bookings. We're trying to save a bit of money, how it is. But man, my point is, with everything that you hit in terms of like a personal goal or a big milestone, there's always more stuff around the corner. Everything is kind of ballooning up still, and I wanted to compare it really with buying a home. Buying a home is very much like, once you get that deposit, like the deposit looks like a mountain when you're in the process of buying a home. Like, I gotta get all this money together. I gotta pay like solicitors to do things. I gotta have people doing like all these legal actions on my behalf. So it's just so much to manage. But then once you go through the process and you actually get in and you've bought the house, and I'm not a homeowner the minute, of course, so I'm not speaking from a place of exact experience, but from what I've read and stuff, pretty much as soon as you get in the door and close it, you're thinking, right, what's creaking? Is the electrics done? Is the roof done? Is there a corner that's fallen apart I need to deal with? There's always like several more things that you are now responsible for with owning that. Like the mountain of getting that deposit and getting the process and the paperwork signed, it was like a hill. It was like the starter hill to get up to the big mountain of dealing with all the process of owning a home and maintaining a home and paying for all the stuff that goes along with that, And, it just really hit me. Like I said, every stage in life, it just comes with more expenses. You think you're done, but you're really just like getting in the door. It's just exhausting. It's exhausting. But in a nicer turn, in a nicer idea, the milestones don't really end. Life does keep asking for more, but as it asks for more, we do become more resilient. As you grow and you make more decisions, and you deal with consequence, and you get more experience under your belt, your capability does improve. Like me with cooking. I never learned to cook at all, anything growing up. I didn't have many cooks around and stuff. That sounded like a rich person-y thing, like cooks, but just no one, was like cooking from scratch recipes or anything. It was very much chuck it in the oven, chuck it on the pan, and I didn't even have much experience with that. So just in this last like block of life of being an adult, I've really been trying to push down um the difficulty, the friction of learning things for the kitchen. I've just learned to manage the times on different things and learning basic recipes and stuff. And as I grow within it, I become more capable. I'm able to look at something and think, okay, well, I could actually do that. That's not as intimidating as I would first think. But look, to get more back to the point about life here and about reflections, I really think um, the key lesson is balance, isn't it? It is looking at weighing the experience of today versus the security of tomorrow. Because really, I mean, honestly, tomorrow's never guaranteed. We obviously know that. Everybody knows that. You kind of hear it. And again, to go back to the good place, um, at one scene, Eleanor is talking to Michael about death, and he doesn't understand. As like a non-human, he doesn't understand how you know about death. You're not just freaking out all the time. And she's like, look, it's just something you deal with as a human. You like have a pet or whatever that dies in childhood. You kind of learn what it is. You're like, that's a bummer. You go through a little bit of emotional like stretch with it, and then you just kind of keep on living your life. And that pretty much goes how it goes. So, like I've had people pass and stuff like that, and it's extremely difficult. And I'm very lucky to never have someone that's right here, like a direct parent or something, pass and not have to go through that grief. But it's really just what it is. Like you go through that patch and you feel it and you grieve it and you do just continue on every day. It doesn't really leave, but you just kind of get more detached and you just kind of get back into your life. Again, like was it in Better Call Saul? Was it Hank talking? And it's the whole like one day you realize you can forget speech. Like you realize at lunchtime that you didn't think about that person that passed or whatever all the way up until lunchtime that day, instead of first thing in the morning or in the car on the commute or all of those checkpoints. But look, that was all a bit of a solemn conversation. I kind of spiraled there on my quotes. I do apologize, but really what I'm saying is that it's tough. You're told to save for the future and to prioritize like the pension and your teeth. Of course, I need to do a better job at that, obviously. And for health emergencies and having emergency funds and everything, having this security. But obviously, you want to live today. You want to have experiences. You want to have stuff that you can like look back on. So finding that balance is the name of the game, people. You know what I mean? For me, I think it's helped to reframe the goal. So the goal isn't like the next milestone of even to fund this wedding. Obviously, I need to fund the wedding. It's my wedding. I got to pay for it. But the goal isn't necessarily just to fund it and just have that completed as a milestone, because I know there's going to be more stuff that opens up down the line. There's going to be more expenses. Even if I save everything, I think, to the penny, there will be something else. I will fancy a crunchy the morning of and have to go to the centre and spend a few pound on a crunchy. There's always going to be stuff that changes. So it's not really about that next milestone. It's about finding balance in the today of how I feel about today versus tomorrow. The second thing that I think really helped me is transferring the lesson that you hear quite a lot in do it scared. Like if you've never done content before, if you've never done art before, if you've never done stand-up before, if you've never done university and you want to go back to university as an adult, just do it scared, because it's just to get it started. Doing thing that scares you, it means you're kind of pushing yourself and you're growing, and that's a positive thing. And I think I've really moved that over into the money area as well, because I'm very overwhelmed by all of it. You know what I mean? In terms of getting money and what should I be putting in the right places, and you're comparing yourself, you're thinking what you should have instead of what you do have, and all this stuff. But remembering that lesson of do it scared, of just try to move forward in the right direction. Try to just, don't get overwhelmed by the mad investment stuff that everyone's freaking out about with the politics. Don't get too anxious because you're seeing, other stuff on social media of this or that, or this advice versus that advice. Just try to take a step in the direction that you believe is right. And even if you're uncomfortable with it, like, just try to recognize that progress is a good thing. Mainly, otherwise, I would say it's, other than comparison, which I obviously just spoke on there, it's avoiding paralysis. Indecision is a decision. So sitting in the fear won't make it go away. Action helps. Even just small, imperfect action will help you gain some momentum that will lead to bigger change and more positive force in the right direction. And with those things, I feel they really supported me, in terms of trying to balance spending money and living life for today versus tomorrow, trying to reframe it instead of just living for a series of milestones, finding the balance of the enjoyment, avoiding a paralysis state where I'm just frozen within action, and as a result of trying to not be in paralysis and feeling the fear, just doing the action anyway. Deary me, that was quite a ramble. I can really yap, can't I? Honestly. So look, to wrap us up, obviously I've talked about some downer things today. I've talked about life being more expensive. I've talked about losing people in your life. Well, I think the thing to remember is that, like I said, life gets more expensive, but we do get more resilient. As you do more and as you grow, you become more capable. And just remember that you are more capable. There isn't a perfect path. You're always going to look over at someone that made the other decision that you could have made and think, oh, well, what if I did that or whatever? But there isn't a perfect path. It's just your version of moving forward. Okay? And like I said, embrace the fear. Just keep moving through being scared and the discomfort. And with the balance, it's not about getting a perfect balance. It's not about having an ideal version of what the day is and trying to hit that every single day. It's just about intention. It's about recognizing how you're feeling today. Are you really anxious about the future? Are you really, unfulfilled, I guess, in the present, in terms of, you're not activating or pushing yourself in any way to do something that would be maybe outside of your routine, which is something I could certainly think about. So, remember, it's not about having the perfect balance every time. It's just about going in with the intention of having a balanced, life and overview and attitude, I guess. So, that's really us on an attempt to understand. Again, if you obviously have been feeling the same way, please go ahead and leave a comment. Go ahead and leave a comment if you've been feeling frustrated with stuff, if you've been feeling kind of money worries and stuff like that. Everyone really is, aren't they? Even rich people are freaking out because they're becoming less rich. Also, just to say, if you're listening on Spotify or on a podcast platform, or even on YouTube podcasts or anything, leave a like if you can. If you are one of those returning viewers and you've watched a couple videos or you've got some value from the shorts, maybe hit subscribe, and you can see the future content that we continue to produce here on the Adam Dean channel and here for the An Attempt to Understand podcast. All right. Well, I think that's about enough yapping for today. I will see everyone next week. Thank you again for tuning in. I wish you all of the best and hope you have a great day moving forward and an even better tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye now.